The Gamers, Kyla's Rescue, written and narrated by C. Taylor, edited to meet YouTube guidelines. To purchase the unedited book, please click the link in the description. Chapter 2. Sky sat outside the simulation room, knee bouncing nervously as she waited. She pulled at the neck of the all-white training suit again. It was far too small for her, but it was the largest size available. The training center supplied suits weren't made with 1-year extensions in mind, much less two. The honor of being granted a 1-year extension, then the first student ever to be granted a second-year extension due to both her parents descending from founders. It sounded like a good thing, but it was more humiliating and awkward than anything to brag about. Now, she only had 2 months left to earn an internship, or she would have to choose service and never be permitted to speak with her family again. Her deadline, though, wasn't the only cause of her current frantic state. The other was Kyla. 2 days and no word from her friend. They'd never gone a single day without speaking since they'd met 10 years earlier, and now she couldn't find her anywhere. Something was wrong. Sky could feel it, but she couldn't figure out what it was or what she could do. Everyone she'd asked just told her Kyla must be on a special project, but no one seemed to know which one or how long it would take. Kyla hasn't been gone that long, was all the answer she'd been able to get. What could she possibly do? One thought came to mind. It was brilliantly simple. Why hadn't she thought of it before? She checked the time and wanted to curse. She still had 2 hours of training, and Rylan would be off work by the time she was done. Waiting one more day, she was sure would make her crazy. If only she could figure out a way to leave early. One memory snapped to her mind. It was by far the worst training day, but it let her go home early. Did she dare do it again? On purpose this time? She looked at the time, tried to think of anything else she could do, but nothing else came to mind. Sky noticed two students walking up the hall toward her and ducked her head, bracing for what she knew would happen. The oddity of a 19-year-old in a training center wearing a training suit was too much of a spectacle to go unnoticed. The chatting kids suddenly quieted as they neared, walked past, and once they felt they were far enough away, started whispering and laughing. The familiar sting made her skin redden, but she had long ago learned to keep the tears away. She took another deep breath and leaned back against the wall, foot and knee still restlessly bobbing. She slid her hand into the arm brace of the weapon she needed for the simulation until her hand suctioned into place, fingers pressed against the controls. Military drills. The easiest of all simulations, but it could have been any number of more intricate programs or simulations. It wouldn't matter. The red light came on above the door next to her. It was time. Decision made, she stood and walked through the door as it opened for her. The landscape on the other side was open, stark, with easily defined bunker points along a clearly defined path she would need to follow. A single box of additional weapons at each bunker point she would need to use to make it to the next point. It was obvious her newest tutor, Brino, thought that removing any choice or option for this run would allow her to complete the mission. She'd only been working with him for a few months. Dear, sweet, naive man. Sky quickly scanned the room, searching for the concealed control panel for the simulation. Her accident would need to look accidental, but she needed to locate that panel first. Sky, I know you can do this. Just follow the markers to the end. That's all you need to do, okay? The now familiar voice sounded over the speaker. Sky looked up at the observation booth. Rhino and three instructors peered through the observation window. She nodded and waved the arm encased in the weapon to let them know she was ready. The less time she thought about what she was about to do, the easier it would be. Now, where was that panel? The lights went out before she could locate it. Her white training suit now appeared as camouflage fatigues. Explosions sounded in the chamber, much softer than standard volume, and lights flickered to imitate the blast. Gunfire cracked the air, and smoke started to drift on the now moving breeze. Even with the muted effects, Sky's mind started to spin. She focused on the first bunker point, tried to move toward it, but the ground felt uneven and she stumbled with her first step. She used her free hand on the ground as she scrambled with it and her legs to the first point, but moving that way prevented the use of her weapon for defense. The first impact hit her side. The training suit simulated the sting, making her gasp. Still scrambling, she made it to the first bunker point and balled herself behind it. At least she hoped she was behind it. She pulled her weapon close to her chest. She knew how to use it, but she was already so turned around she had no idea where to aim it. The box by her had flash grenades she would need to use against the advancing forces, which she guessed would be about two soldiers walking slowly toward her, aiming weapons, but not shooting very often. Now she just had to figure out where they were. She peeked around the side of the bunker. No man that way. She moved to look around the other side and saw they were coming directly at her from her left. She was not behind the bunker. She scrambled again to put it between herself and the oncoming men. She activated her weapon, felt the vibration as it charged. Now, which way were the soldiers? Oh, screw it. She grabbed one of the grenades, activated it, and threw it in the direction she thought the soldiers had been. It detonated, it flashed a bright light at impact and destroyed one of the needed bunkers. Sky cursed before turning and trying to find the soldiers. She scrambled what she thought was all the way around the bunker, but couldn't find them. She felt a sudden impact and the sensation that she was separated from the ground but moving. The impact felt familiar from when she used to stumble into the paths of other students who didn't get dizzy or disoriented in a simulation. She was alone in this simulation, though, and it didn't make sense. Her body flew. She braced for a landing she knew would hurt, and it did. The wind was knocked out of her, and she couldn't take a breath. A second impact landed on top of her, pinning her down, hands around her throat, slight pressure making her breath a wheeze when her lungs finally worked again. Her eyes watered, blurry images made her think she was hallucinating. A hologram soldier was attacking her. Sky's training suit made everything it did feel real. By the time she understood what was happening, she was completely pinned and unable to move. Sky, it's me, Kyla. The faint words drifted from the soldier's face. Sky froze, still wheezing from the pressure on her neck, but realizing it wasn't intended to harm her, it was to distract Brino and the instructors. I don't know where I am, but they're hurting me. They keep medicating me. I can't get away. The words were still faint, but Sky heard her desperation. Sky took a ragged breath, then whispered, I'm coming, but I need the control panel destroyed so I can leave early. She shared her plan. I'm sorry, this is going to hurt, but it's the fastest way, Kyla warned. Do it, Sky agreed. She felt the soldier shift. Next, she felt the sensation of floating. The wall instantly and painfully stopped her movement. She felt something crunch against her hip before she slumped to the floor. What in the name of the potentate? She heard Brino scream. The simulation disappeared. Emergency lights came on, illuminating the now empty room. The observation room door slammed open, and all four men rushed out. What the hell was that? They all shouted at her. I don't know, she answered shakily. It must have been that grenade that destroyed the bunker. The program didn't know how to process such an idiotic move. One of the instructors quickly found a way to blame her. So it attacked me? Sky countered. All three instructors went silent. Bruno didn't look happy as he helped her up. How soon can another training room be prepared? With all the modifications you requested, at least an hour, came the answer. That still leaves us an hour of training before the end of the day. Do it, he ordered. Sky's mind scrambled for any excuse to get out of there. I can't, was all she said. Everyone froze, just staring at her. You don't have a choice. Bruno's voice was low and controlled. Sky resisted the urge to roll her eyes. He thought he could intimidate her, the sweet, dear, naive man. Other people, better than him, had tried, and it stopped working after she turned 14. Yes, I do, she warned back, calm and controlled. Will you please excuse us? Bruno asked without looking at the other instructors, took Sky by the arm and pulled. She followed him out of the simulation room, down the hall, and into his office. He shut the door loudly before turning to her and dropping to his knees. Please, 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 Sky, don't do this to me. I swear I'll figure out a way to get you an internship. Just stay. I'll figure out a way. There it was. Recognition of just how much power she had to harm this man. Power that she never wanted, power that had already hurt so many people that the guild still threatened to destroy her. But before she could let that happen, she needed to find Kyla, especially now that Sky knew she was a part of a very unpleasant special project. She had no idea how Kyla had let her know this way, but this wasn't the first weird, unexplainable experience they'd had together. She would ask once Kyla was safe. We'll start first thing tomorrow, I swear, but I have to leave now. Why? Question came out like a scream of anguish. Sky quieted. She couldn't do this to him. She couldn't destroy another career in the hopeless cause of getting her an internship. Actually, I quit. It came out before she could think about it, knowing she would never have the courage to do it if she did think about it. Bruno paused. What? I quit. Your career is safe. This way, you didn't fail a double founder. You just did your best with a student that was rebellious or too stupid or crazy. Whatever they say, I've heard it nearly my whole life. It just won't be on you. Rhino's eyebrows pulled together in confusion. Would that work? I'm sure you'll be fine. She soothed her tutor and reached for the door. Sky, I really wished I could have helped you, he admitted before the door opened. Sky smiled weakly. That would have been so nice. Me too. Could you imagine what my career would have been if I had? The edges of greed colored his words. Sky's smile widened, imagining the same. It would have been amazing, she agreed, and walked out of his office for the last time. Sky changed into her normal clothes and took the lift to the roof, shaking her head at the pointlessness of the last 2 years. The daily humiliation, the embarrassment she experienced and caused her family, the career she destroyed when a long line of tutors were unable to help a double founder do what was considered the easiest of all tasks, simply getting an internship. Now, the extended training also prevented her from having her own source of transportation, even though she'd been an adult for 2 years now. The public transportation was still her only option, so she made her way to the student mass transit shuttle. She would need to transfer 5 times to get where she needed to go, and, if she was lucky, arrive before Rylan left for the day. The lift doors opened. Her early departure meant there were only a few students waiting for the next shuttle. They all quieted when they saw her. Sky crossed her arms tight in front of her, bracing herself against the awkward weight as the other students quietly shuffled, trying not to stare at her, but stealing glances at her as often as they could. Finally, the shuttle pulled up, students shuffled on. Sky made her way to the back and sat quietly looking out the window. She pulled her legs up and hugged them, trying to make herself as small as possible.